The NBA All-Star Game is outdated.
Lousy, outdated relics.
Good golly, Miss Molly!
These All-Star teams are stacked. I don't see a lot of issues with players who are actually on the list, except you, Dinkelberg. But let's go ahead and look to see if there are any people who might have gotten snubbed. Averaging 27 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds doesn't get you in the All-Star Game? As the 5th seed in a stacked Western Conference? Okay, well, maybe another player on that same team is just doing better. 7th in the NBA's MVP race, 20 points, 8 assists, and a league-leading 13 rebounds should be more than enough to earn you a spot, Okay, well, let's look and see how the East is doing on their side. 27 and 11 is an injury replacement? Timeout. Has it always been this damn hard to make the All-Star Game? The answer is no. While the association has obviously gotten more and more talented as the years have gone on, this isn't the only reason why it's harder to get in than watching a DeAndre Ayton post-up.
I gotta keep the W low.
Got it.
For the start of the 1982 NBA season, the league decided to change the rules on the number of players in the All-Star Game to 12 overall, increasing it from the previous 11. And this made it so that 9% of the league's top talent is represented in the game. Fast forward 7 expansion teams and 4 decades later, we see that the All-Star Game now only represents 3% of the league's top-end talent. Now, this is an issue for a multitude of reasons. But to look at the other side's argument, which we should do, I could see some making the case that this only solidifies the NBA All-Stars as the cream of the crop, the top-end talent, preventing All-Star selections that could be considered a little questionable. I'm looking at you, Steve Johnson. 15 points and 5.5 rebounds, have an ass. Great, obvious in the NBA, but those are not all-star numbers for a center by any means. And the league has changed. Even if you ask old heads, they will tell you that the talent of the league has most definitely exploded, with bigs hitting step-back threes and 6'2" point guards having to have a crazy post game. The talent has expanded, and so should the All-Star Game. And the reason I feel this is necessary is because we see that all-star appearances do hold some weight when it comes to judging players' legacies. Now, whether you think that should be the case or not is a totally different story. But for example, you go to Basketball Reference, the top stat in the top right corner is the amount of all-star appearances they have. We got 2-time MVP, Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year Giannis, first being represented by his 8 all-star selections? What? When you hear a commentator talk about someone who doesn't have a championship or MVP, you don't hear them mention all NBA teams. They talk about all-star appearances. And who benefits from that? The older generations, who statistically had up to a 6% higher chance of becoming an all-star than the guys in today's league. Now that 6% might not sound all that crazy, but think about how important these appearances can be for modern NBA players. Looking at it from purely a legacy standpoint, does this skew future generations' perceptions of our modern day players? Will they compare hoopers from back then to our guys and use the argument that some guys in the past were just more consistently dominant to their competition than the guys in our era? And then from a financial standpoint, look at how much money they could be leaving on the table if they don't make an All-Star Game. Last year, we found out that Julius Randle made $1.8 million more for making it on the reserve list. Of course, these dudes are multi-millionaires, but $1.8 million is $1.8 million. And that's strictly incentives in their contracts. Think about the better leverage and the negotiations a player can have with receiving multiple all-star selections in comparison to someone who doesn't. This kind of stuff matters, no matter how much you hate the lack of defense in the actual game. So my proposition to this, expand the roster to 15 players each, just like a regular NBA roster is allowed to have. And after much digging to clarifying this, yes, you can play all 15 players on your squad, not just 12. I couldn't find a clear-cut answer. I don't know when this rule was changed, but even as early as 2017, I knew you could only play 12. Now it's 15. Thank you, Oklahoma City, for putting in the entire squad in your blowout. You're the real MVP. But this way, at least 5% of the league's top-end talent will be represented in the game. And hey, I'm not even saying those back-end guys should be getting any real crazy playing time, but it would definitely give the new generation a chance. And don't call me a Gen Z snowflake for saying I want things to be fair. That's like the boomers telling us to go buy a house the way they did by working hard and not wasting your money on those damn coffees you buy. Like their version of minimum wage wasn't the equivalent of $25 an hour for the modern day. Yeah, look it up. That's actually how much minimum wage would be if adjusted for inflation and productivity to their generation. But anyways, getting my class consciousness nonsense out of here, who would I pick to represent the new roster set up in the East and in the West? I really want to go with the picks that would lead to the most fun, but I'll go off of performance. In the West, I'd throw in both the Sacramento guys. As I stated, 27, 5, and 4 for Fox is unfathomable. Domantas Sabonis' 20, 13, and 8 is more than deserving. For that third spot, I don't think Cat is more impactful than Rudy, but I do understand nobody is trying to see the Frenchman play in Indiana. I don't think the Clippers should get 3 All-Stars, so I'm going to have to go with my guy, Jamal Murray. Even though it would make the case so sweet for the Jokic stance for him to never make an All-Star game, I do believe his 21, 6, and 4 should give him some recognition. My favorite part about him is his ability to go ahead and get up for big games. When it matters most, edging out the win against Milwaukee with his 35 points, or how about his win against Boston to end their home game winning streak with 35, 8, and 5. Then in the East, I'm taking Tingus Pingus Kristaps Porzingis as another All-Star this year. And yes, I know what I said about the Clippers not deserving 3 All-Stars, but this team is on another level, being by far the best record in the league, 5 games ahead of second place in the East, and with Tingus being so vital both offensively and defensively to the squad, I think his 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks earns him a spot in the expansion. Next up, we have another big, which is Jarrett Allen, a guy who has been putting on his best Wilt Chamberlain impersonation by helping anchor the Cavs defense to gritty wins, putting them as second in the Eastern Conference. While his stats aren't super jaw-dropping, 15.5 points on 65% shooting and 10.5 rebounds, he does his roles to the max and has been the prototype for a winning big man on the team, even without having 3-point shooting. And lastly, I'm going to go with Pascal Siakam. The former Raptor, now Pacer, has had a great season with averages of 22 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists on over 53% shooting. The power forward does it all on the court and is impactful while doing it, and I think he could be one of those exact guys that will get lost in the shuffle of good players in our era due to the lack of All-Star appearances. But what do you think, Dash and Hoopers? Do you think that the All-Star game is outdated? Should there be an extra 3 spots thrown on for each team? Or should we keep it the way it is so we don't have any questionable picks for the All-Star game? You let me down in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen, and as always, y'all have a phenomenal rest of your day.